Geno.
Hi.
With Baylor coming up tomorrow, and last time you guys played Baylor, Liv obviously had a really tough game. But with that game being so long ago, now having Aaliyah here, how much has Liv learned that she doesn't necessarily need to score points to contribute? I think Paige called her a point forward because of how much she's been contributing, passing, rebounding, doing everything besides scoring points.
Well, I mean, if you watch Baylor play, you can just be you can't be anything but impressed with their size and their physicality and their athletic ability. So having somebody like Aaliyah, that's an element that we didn't have last season, and that allows Liv an opportunity to, as Paige said, be more of a distributor for us and be, someone who can, occupy one of their defenders at the high post and gives us some defensive flexibility. Last year the entire defensive assignment was pretty much Liv versus the rest of them. So, I think we've got a little more to work with, but that's not going to make beating Baylor any easier.
Next question is from Douglas.
Hey, Geno, Doug Bonjour with Hearst. You've talked about teams needing to play different styles to win in March, and obviously yesterday was, more of a track meet at times. I mean, Baylor, obviously defensively, I assume you're expected to be more of a grind. I mean, can you discuss that, just the style that they play and kind of what you're up against here?
Well, I think watching Baylor play, throughout the season, I don't think they have just one style. I think they can play half court, as you saw yesterday. They can get out in transition. They certainly have the athletic ability in the backcourt to be able to play as fast as they want to play. I think the game yesterday just, turned into that kind of a game. I think for us, tomorrow we have to be prepared for whatever comes. If it's a fast-paced game, then we have to be able to, to function in that kind of a game. And if it's a half-court game, we have to be able to execute in that kind of a game. And, I think at this time of the year, you've got to be able to adapt to whatever the game calls for.
Next question is from Patrick.
Hi, Coach. Pat Eatonrob with the Associated Press. I know you have tremendous respect for what Kim has built and been able to sustain at Baylor. I've noticed there seem to be similar formulas here. Defense first. Both teams seem to have a star player, but a lot of other pieces who could take over at any given game. Do you see those kind of similarities? And what do you see in the formula that they've built for success?
I think you're right. Every team that competes for a championship and actually has won a championship has pretty much used that formula if they want to come back. Now, if you're only trying to do it once and you're trying to give it, one shot at it, then maybe you don't have to do it this way. But I think if you want to be that kind of program that has a chance each year to put yourself in that situation, then that's how you have to do it. You have to recruit really good players, which they do. You have to play great defense, which they do. You have to be able to have players that can carry you individually at times, which they do. And you've got to be, tournament tough. Some teams are great during the regular season, and they're not so great in the tournament. So they have all those things, and that's why every year they're in the conversation, they're in the mix when it comes to national championship. And I think it's played out as you've seen. I think they were underseeded. Explain to me how they're a number 2 seed. So, these things happen. I know, but I think they deserve to be a number 1 seed if you look around the rest of the tournament. Not that any of the other number 1 seeds, including us, don't deserve it. But I think certainly Baylor is more than a number 2 seed. How we ended up in the same region, that's even more shocking, given how good they are. So, what are you going to do?
Next question. Oh, I'm sorry. Next question is from Joe.
Geno, good morning. Joe's on Channel 3 in Hartford.
Morning.
Good morning. Is Kristen Williams at a point now where you might spend less time coaching her, or because she seems to embrace it now, even more time coaching her?
Well, I've not stopped coaching Kristen Williams since the day she got to Connecticut. You coach everybody the entire time they're at your school. It's just that sometimes players know exactly what it is that you're trying to coach them into, and embrace it, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others. Sometimes they're inconsistent, and sometimes it takes a while for them to become consistent. I'll venture to say coaching somebody like Nafisa is just as much of a challenge, even though there was never a time when you felt like she was inconsistent. But you don't stop coaching. And, Kristen Williams has benefited from all the coaching that she's gotten at Connecticut the entire time that she's been there. So Kristen Williams is not the first player I've ever said is uncoachable, and she certainly won't be the last.
Next question is from Nancy.
Nancy Armour, USA Today Sports. Hey, Geno, Arizona's in the Elite Eight for the first time ever, and Adi's only in her 4th year. How important is it to have some of these, younger, newer coaches emerge, and what do you see as the relevance or the importance of them kind of, emerging as personalities or voices in women's basketball?
Well, I think it's crucial. I really do. I think it goes to show you the mistakes that are made so many times in hiring, and the incredible mistakes that really good schools make in hiring. And then when they finally get it right, how good they really are. Because when you take a great school like Arizona with great facilities and in an area where you can get players, for them not to be successful is just an incredible number of mistakes along the way in who they hire. So when you finally get it right, you look around and you go, wow, where'd that come from? Isn't this great? You take someone like Adia, who she was a great player there. As a matter of fact, I think the last time they were probably in that situation was I remember playing them in Dayton in the Sweet 16 when she played, when Adia played. So I'm not surprised at her success, and I'm not surprised that Arizona is where they are. And you know, coaches like Adia and Terry at Indiana, you know, when you get it right, when you get the right coach at the right place that has the right stuff for that school, but you got to do your homework. You know, you can't just go out there and go, oh, you know what? This kid has a great reputation from a great place, from a, you know, and, you know, they fit a certain, you know, mold that we're looking for. So let's just hire them. I could give you a list of schools right now that would completely shock you. And you don't, you know, most of America doesn't want to hear it, that have gotten it wrong for the last 15 years. And now have finally gotten it right and are having unbelievable success. So, yeah, the more success stories like Adia and Terry, you know, just to name two, the more success stories like that, the better, you know, women's college basketball is.
Next question is from Mike.
Thank you. Good morning, Geno.
Morning.
To follow up on Pat's question about Kim, what really impresses you the most about the job she's done over the years, from program building to the way she coaches to her outgoing personality? What has she meant to the sport all these years?
I think Kim the coach is an extension of Kim the player. You know, maybe a lot of the media are too young to remember Kim as a player, or weren't following the sport when Kim was a player. But she coaches exactly the way she played. You know, she's tough, she's competitive, she's driven. There's an intensity level about her. You know, she multitasks. You know, she coaches, she officiates, she does everything on the sideline with a passion, and most of all, I think it's been consistent. It's been consistent that she's been true to who she is. This is who Kim is. There's no like act there that she's putting on, and her teams have been consistent. You know, each year they have the same formula. You know, and some years it works out better than others, like the rest of us. But the best thing you can say about a coach is they're true to their personality. They believe in a certain way of playing and coaching, and they stay with it. And that's why she's had the success that she's had. It's no mystery, really.
Next question is from Carl.
Geno, two-part question. What are your impressions of Dee Dee Richards on the defensive end? And second, to follow up on coaches, you know, schools getting it right, why do you think Wisconsin made a good choice with Marissa?
Well, I think the entire Baylor defensive team, the entire team is exceptional defensively. I think you don't necessarily crack the lineup or get a lot of playing time at Baylor if you're not a great defensive player. So Dee Dee's just a perfect example of that. I mean, you look at the stat sheet sometimes and you'll say, well, what contribution did she make? But you have to watch the game, and you have to watch the way she impacts the game, you know, defensively to realize how valuable she is on that team. As far as, you know, Wisconsin getting it right, you know, you just cross your fingers and you hope that that people get it right. And I mean, obviously, I'm partial. When I recommended Marissa for the BU job, you know, I told Drew up there. I said, listen, I don't know if she's going to win the conference championship or not. I said, but I guarantee you, your team's going to be a lot better than they were the year before. And they're going to be a lot better next year and the year after that. And I think the same thing is going to happen at Wisconsin. I don't know if she's going to win the Big Ten, next year, the year after that. But I know Wisconsin is going to be better than they were last year, and they're going to keep getting better every year. And that's all you can hope for when you hire a coach.
All right, we have time for one more question, and that'll come from Bob.
Hey, Geno, Bob Joyce from UConn Sports Network. Yesterday, your juniors, were just outstanding. And it doesn't matter how good your freshmen or sophomores are. Coaches that I've always covered have always talked about the upperclassmen having to play well at this time of year. Can you talk about their development this year and the confidence level that they've gotten since the season began to take you to the spot where you are today?
Well, at some point, you're going to need that. When you have three juniors that are talented, like our juniors are, and you have three juniors that have the ability to impact games, then you want them to have that kind of impact. The year's been a bumpy year. You throw those three together, and this is the first time any of them has been in that particular role. Okay, so sometimes it takes a while for it to come together. You put those three in a unfamiliar role, number one. You put them out there with six freshmen, number two. And all of a sudden, in the beginning of the season, in the middle of the season, there's a lot on their shoulders. It's a lot to manage. It's a lot to handle. And especially when you're trying to get your own house in order, and now you're also trying to figure out how to lead and how to be go-to players. And then, and I think the one thing they've dealt the best with has been all the attention on Paige. It's been made out that we're a team of Paige Beckers and a bunch of other guys. And, I think they've dealt with that magnificently, and not allowing that to be, the story, and they've, since the NCAA tournament started, they have done an incredible job of being, who they are supposed to be. I talk all the time about, when you're playing in this tournament, you can't be better than you are. That's not possible. All of a sudden, you're not going to be a lot better than you've ever been. Because at some point, you would have been that already. So you're just going to have to be as good as you are. And the three of them yesterday were in their own way. Don't get me wrong. It's not always points. It's rebounds or assists. But in their own way, the three of them were as good as they are. And there's probably a little more in them. And hopefully, because they may need a little more tomorrow night.
Coach, thank you for your time. We're going to have to end it here, and then